Welcome to the Annie Jennings PR Author Expert Wire podcast series. My name is Stacey Amaral Kaufman. I'm the radio director for Annie's Big City #1 national radio campaign that includes a performance guarantee and unlimited media training. Annie Jennings also offers her famous performance publicity program with no monthly retainers for influential online media outlets and television across the country. If you want high-power publicity for yourself, please contact anniejenningspr.com. And in this podcast, we feature Letitia Jackson, a women's empowerment advocate whose debut memoir, Woman to Woman, Letters from Wives to Mistresses, is generating buzz due to what some are calling a, quote, freshly written exploration into the topic of the mistress. So, welcome, Letitia.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. Now let's talk a little bit more about this book. It sounds really juicy. Tell us a little bit more about your memoir and what the message is.
Well, Woman to Woman really puts in the face of women the question, are you your sister's enemy? And by sisters, I mean this sisterhood we talk about. And quite simply, the answer to that question is yes, if you're knowingly messing around with another woman's husband. And while it is a book that takes women to task for this destructive behavior, I still wanted to balance it with my core mission, which is to strengthen our sisterhood. But the only way to get to that really is to have raw, unfiltered conversations about what mistresses are doing when they continue to get involved with other women's husbands.
Right, an honest conversation, kind of laying it out on the table. Let's confront these issues. I mean, there must have been something that inspired you to write this story.
Unfortunately, yes. Woman to Woman isn't just the title of the book. Those were actually the words my ex's mistress said to me. And, she didn't follow the words woman to woman up with, what we would expect to be words of sympathy or maybe some words of remorse. No, she actually said, woman to woman, I just want you to know. And I can't give away everything she said because it actually is a really big reveal in the book. But she followed those words up with what today are still the most confusing and heartbreaking words I've ever heard. I do say in the book, related to that yes, it was my husband who broke our vows. It was my husband who broke my trust and my spirit, but it was his mistress who broke my heart.
Now, let's go there for a second because people might say, well, you're maybe letting cheating husbands off the hook when you're blaming the mistress.
Oh, yes. Oh, I definitely get those angry emails. And I'm okay with that because, some of them have not read the book yet. I mean, I actually say at least 3 or 4 times in the book, listen, ladies, I am not letting the cheating husbands off. I'm not even trying to lessen their responsibility. But I wrote Woman to Woman for women. I wrote it for women, and it's for us only. It's time for us to talk about this negative dynamic in our community that still has us in this day when we need each other more than ever, contributing to the tearing apart of another woman's family. Listen, we've talked infidelity to death with the men. They're not listening. I believe it's up to us, the women, to take this by the helm and to fix this terrible dynamic in our community. We're the ones that are going to put an end to this destructive behavior.
And you were saying we've talked about this to men, right? Like ad nauseum, right? And some people might say to you, what more can really be said about infidelity?
And again, another good question. Really, the role of the mistress is what has changed over time. The mistresses of 2021 know something that the mistresses of times past didn't, and that is that they hold all the power in these illicit relationships. And so since that power dynamic has changed, our perspective has to change along with that. So it's no longer about why the husband is cheating. It's now about why in this day, again, this day and age, when we've come so far, that we're still so willing to do this to one another. So it's not just about the husband to wife betrayal anymore. It's now about this woman to woman betrayal.
And so would you say that is what that messaging and the theme within your book, Woman to Woman, that's what makes it stand out? That's what makes it unique?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw what happened to our poor sister Khloe Kardashian a couple of years ago when she dared to tweet out that Jordan Woods was the reason her family broke up. All of the backlash that she got was from women who saying, don't blame the other woman, blame your man. Well, I was on Khloe's side. And it really upset me because in all my decades on this earth, I have never, ever not known a woman to blame the other woman on some level if her man cheated. So why we all of a sudden get this righteous indignation when someone dares say it out loud is beyond me. But it was at that point that I decided to start writing this book again, to stand up for all the women who feel that way, put a voice to it, but also ultimately to help to heal what is our fractured sisterhood, again, because of these destructive behaviors.
And so ultimately, Letitia, you mentioned you want some healing. Tell us just a little bit more about that and how you feel like the book can accomplish it.
Yes, definitely healing, and not just healing of us as women, as individuals, which is what writing my book did for me. And there are real life letters that I gathered in the book from both wives and mistresses. Wives were instructed to write letters to the mistress of her husband, whether she knew her or not. Write that letter as though she was speaking right to her. And mistresses were given the same instruction with regards to the wife. Almost 100% of the letters I got, both sets of women said it helped them either to begin to heal or helped to finally close a chapter in their lives. I know writing the book helped me to heal some of the wounds that I was still carrying around, just being able to put pen to paper and to really voice what that did to me, how it has shaped me in some ways. And also the communication between women, they're in effect speaking to one another, and it won't just stop at the book. There are things I'm going to be doing around the country publicly, but with regards to the book, the honesty and raw emotions in the letters are just so relatable, and they're so real that any woman that reads them won't have a choice really but to put themselves in their sister's shoes. And when you can do that, you begin to build empathy, sympathy, compassion, and hopefully, ultimately, forgiveness. And again, that heals the individual, and it will also help to heal this thing we call sisterhood.
Well, Letitia, I love what you're doing, and also putting yourself out there and being vulnerable with it too really does take a lot of courage. I encourage everyone listening to check out Letitia's website, learn more about the book Woman to Woman. It's available now, and you can visit Letitia online at LetitiaJackson.com. That's LETISHA Jackson, LetitiaJackson.com. And thank you again for being here, being so open, being honest. Really appreciate you joining us, Letitia.
Oh, thank you so much, Stacey, for this opportunity, and just thank you so much to Annie for having me on this wonderful show. I really appreciate it.
And thanks to our listeners as well. Thank you for listening to this Author Expert Wire podcast brought to you by Annie Jennings PR. Visit anniejenningspr.com to learn how you too can enjoy high-powered, no-retainer publicity to build an influential brand and achieve your marketing PR goals and objectives. Till next time.